How do you, soldiers? Someone's excited. Wow, sugar. Alright, not sponsored. YA is notorious for being full of tropes, and I cannot deny that, but we all love to love them or love to hate them. Tropes are reoccurring themes or types of scenes or types of bonds or actions that happen in a series. Tropes fall under neutral territory. They're neither good nor bad, but they are staples of a particular genre or type of book. And traditional and fun tropes in YA books are like the love triangle, the chosen one, the ugly girl getting a makeover and being all glamorous and having the love interest fall in love with her because suddenly she's girly looking, you know, classic. But since the YA market has rapidly grown in the last 10-15 years, there's so much saturation of books that people get tired of the same tropes over and over again, even if they are a staple or what is expected. But tropes are really fun, and one of my favorite things to read is when an author switches up our expectations on a trope, gives it its own twist, does their own thing. And I think that's what all readers are looking for, right? We're looking for a new take on an old trope. So I've compiled a list of all some stereotypical YA tropes and some books that, in my opinion, do it right. I'd also like to draw attention to the fact that I am cute as shit today, and I am ready to get caffeinated and talk about some books. Let's go. I'm gonna start off with a very easy and classic one, like ease you guys into this. Also because I'm pretty sure like everybody knows the book off the top of their head when I say that I'm gonna talk about love triangles. Oh my god, wow. Oh, this is new, and oh, I never would have guessed when you were talking about that. You would have been speaking about this book. What, just use your imagination, okay? Just act a little bit for my sake, please. The Infernal Devices series by Cassandra Clare. Am I slightly biased because Jem is basically my perfect man and Will is a Victorian snack? Maybe. I feel like the love triangle is the ultimate classic YA trope of two guys fighting over one girl who is the protagonist and probably boring as hell. I've never liked a love triangle. I get the whole that it's like, oh, it's tension and like, who will she choose? And each person in that love triangle is someone different, appealing to a different side of themselves, but truly, if someone came up to me and was like, hey, I'm super in love with you, but I'm also super in love with that other person, I don't know who to pick. I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna make that decision real easy for you. Bye. That's also my personal relationship values, because I feel like a lot of love triangles could be solved with either a duel or a threesome. Quick lowdown, we have Will and Jem, who are Parabati warrior brothers, and then we have Tessa, who is the love interest for both of them. And this book works, specifically because of all the love and respect that is within the triangle. There's no screaming, dueling fights. There's no, I'm gonna fight for you to get your affection back, which I think is very dumb. Tessa has a much softer relationship with Jem than she does with Will, but I think she feels a deeper connection with Will. But Will and Jem together are best friends and blood brothers, and they would do anything to make sure that the other person is happy. So everybody in this triangle just like loves each other and wants the other person to be happy and like will go to any length, and like sure, that causes a lot of heartbreak. I cried a lot, but at the same time I'm like, it's just so beautiful, you know? Okay, we got the big boy out of the way, let's move on. Similar to the love triangle, another big romance trope that I see a lot is enemies to lovers, and if you're on TikTok in the amount that I am, you'll know that Book Talk loves this trope above all else, which is like slightly questionable because I'm like, y'all know that you can have like a normal relationship with like a person who actually loves and respects you like right off the get-go. Just do you know that? Like, are you okay? Do you need to talk to someone? I also did a video on enemies to lovers a couple weeks ago if you want to go check that out. I mentioned it there and I'll mention it here again. One book that I think does the enemies to lovers so well is These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. I am also very biased towards this because this is a Romeo and Juliet retelling, and I am an English student at Lit Major. Have I mentioned that yet? R&J inspired retelling in 1926 Shanghai, where we have Roma Montagov and Juliet Kai as the two heirs to rival drug lord gangs. The story takes place during a very politically complicated and bloody part of Chinese history. There's a lot of themes of betrayal and broken trust and upholding legacies and cycles of violence that I think go very well with the enemies to lovers, because it works really well with the internal struggle of needing to work with somebody because, you know, plot, but also feeling like you owe your family and your legacy something very different than what you're experiencing with this new person. But I also really love how their characters interact, because like Roma is such this like soft boy who's like very non-confrontational, and Juliet is just there like ready to stab a bitch bloodthirsty as hell. How dare you stand in her way? We're like, yes, queen, like, you shoot that man, we don't care, hell yeah. Overall, very good book, highly recommend. There was ice in this, like 2 minutes ago. Summer. You know what, let's just get all the romance-based ones out of the way, because I have another one that's very similar, which is the soulmate trope, which I personally despise. I also did a video back when I had long hair and bangs, talking about why I hate soulmates so much, so if you want to go check that out, you can. I think I make some good points, which is kind of a cop-out, because it's an easy way for an author to force the love pairing together without really like needing to write why they find each other attractive, and that's where it kind of breaks down. That's why a lot of people don't like it, because it's like, why do these people even like each other? Like, if you're in a relationship, it's because you like the other person. Like, that's the whole point of being in a relationship. I'm sorry, I'm getting heated, I'm getting off track. However, I'm eating my words on this one, because there is a book that I do think does a very good job of this soulmate trope, and that is Bonecryer's Moon by Catherine Purdy. This is one of the most unique fantasy worlds that I've ever read, and it's about girls who, to be able to ferry the souls of the dead, need to kill animals and wear their bones to absorb their powers, but also have to kill their true love. Amazing. Like, not for the guy, but like, for them. Holy shit. And as you can probably guess from that brief introduction, our two star-crossed lovers, wrong book? Works for this one too, are Alesse, one of these soul farriers, and Sebastian, her true love, who she has to kill. And even though she's supposed to kill him, he ends up kidnapping her, and then they spend time together, and they realize that, oh, maybe they're different than they thought the other person was, and ooh, we're feeling things towards people maybe we shouldn't be, and oh wow, empathy, look at that. But the question of, are we attracted to each other because we're soulmates and fate destined, or is it because we actually started to learn about one another and we're starting to feel sympathy and empathy and understand the other person, I think was really well done. If they are or are not soulmates, and like what those implications are to them, their relationship, the relationship they have with their families, and with Alesse with her church mother, is ooh, it's so nuanced. Alright, hold on, caffeine break. I haven't drank Coke in a really long time. Is it supposed to taste like that? Okay, so hands down, one thing that's a giveaway of a newer amateur author is an insta-love. I think these got made fun of a lot in the early 2000s when YA was kind of becoming a thing. For one character sees the other character, which is usually the first character introduced of the opposite sex to the narrator. And then, oh my god, we're in love. And we're gonna be in love for the whole series. We're gonna live happily ever after and have children and grow old together, even though I literally know nothing about you other than the fact that I find you attractive. So insta-love is not as big as it once was. That being said, I do have an author, I'm gonna hold up 2 books of his, and that is Phil Stamper, who I think does insta-love fantastically in The Gravity of Us and As Far As You'll Take Me. In As Far As You'll Take Me, which just came out, it's about a boy named Marty who goes off to London under the guise that he was going to music school when really he didn't get in and he's instead going to live with his aunt. Came out to his very religious parents and he needs to get away from his home. This insta-love works because it's the first hot British boy who pays attention to him and helps him out when he gets to London. So obviously he's gonna fall in love with him because boys giving you attention and foreign country, beautiful accent, I can't blame him. As we go throughout the book, it explores what happens when you get into a relationship really fast with somebody that you don't know, because then we get, oh, is this person actually a good person? Like, are they using you? What are you willing to do for them? Are they willing to do the same for you? And I think that's what's been missing from a lot of these books that do insta-loves that Phil Stamper did that I really appreciate. I love his works. They're so cute and they're just also introspective. Alright, now to talk about the one that I mentioned at the very beginning of this video, which is The Chosen One. Again, a bit of a cop-out way for a writer to write this person as special or have these things happen to them without really having to give a reason, because the reason is they're the chosen one. So you're like reading along and you're like, this person suddenly can like has the power to talk to animals and like move the sun, and then they're like, they're the chosen one. You're like, oh okay, yeah, seems legit. And as much as I really wanted to pick out the book literally called Chosen Ones by Veronica Roth, which I highly recommend by the way, I'm going to pick another one because of the way that this one pulled it off. So let's talk about There Will Come a Darkness by Katie Rose Poole. This is in a fantasy world where there were 7 prophets who gave off all of these prophecies for thousands of years, and they kind of ended their reign with this one grand prophecy about, you know, the chosen one coming to save the world or destroy it. And we follow along with 5 characters in this world as the prophecies are starting to come true. But then we have to think of who is the chosen one? This book keeps you guessing because you're like, oh, this person based on that thing is definitely a chosen one. Wait a minute. Wait, what are you doing? So then you're like, wait, are they the chosen one? But then someone else does something and you're like, oh yeah, there's no way. But then like a miracle happens and you're like, wait a minute. It starts to make you think over what makes a chosen one. Is this the behavior of somebody who's a chosen one? And then it also goes into how people treat you if they think you are or not the chosen one. This is a fantastic fantasy world that weaves so many connections together with prophecy and interpersonal connections, and then the connections between all 5 of these supposed chosen ones. And I still haven't read the sequel, so we're not going to talk about that small part of my shame and move on. I briefly want to mention a trope that has kind of fallen off the wayside, I will say. It was more of like an early to mid 2000s staple, and that is for a book that I don't have anymore, so I will just make it appear, and that is Divergent by Veronica Roth. Has a fantastic use of the infamous mirror scene. Y'all know what I'm talking about. It's the main character who like wakes up and goes to the bathroom mirror and describes themselves in perfect and utter detail about how I look in the mirror and my brown eyes look back at me. I have shoulder-length brown hair and I'm skinny with curves, but everyone thinks I'm ugly. You know that? But I say this book does it right, because this not only tells you about the character, but it also tells you about the world. And that first line sets up the reader to imagine this world that she's in, because why hasn't she looked in the mirror in 3 months? That's a fairly regular thing for you and I. And then what's changed about her in those 3 months? Triss being shy about watching herself in the mirror kind of gives you a look into her head. Why is this something that she's guilty about? Why is she not allowed to do that? This is like truly like one of the best openings of any book I've ever read, and it's a mirror scene. So like, you can do it, kids. If you want to write a trope, the tropiest trope of all trope time, you can do that if you make it your own. Okay, second last is one that I kind of added in last minute. I don't even know if it was like a trope. Technically, this is my video, so I can do whatever I want. Because I read a lot of fantasy YA novels, I end up reading a lot of retellings, and like fairy tale retellings have kind of always been popular. They're not usually exciting, because as a reader, you're reading a fairy tale retelling, you likely already know what you're going into. You know the princess is gonna get saved at the end, there's gonna be some kind of monster and like the princess is gonna be so dreamy, but like you know how it's going to end, you know the beats of the story. And it's hard as an author to twist that because it's so classic. But the author that I think did the retelling twist really well is A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Bridget Kemmerer. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, which by 2019 was done to death. I was ready to bury anybody who mentioned it, and this is one of my all-time favorite series. Damn you, Bridget Kemmerer, how'd you do that? And oh, my raven's covering it, hold on. There you go, you can see the second and third one there. The first book does follow that traditional Beauty and the Beast plot line, but the way that she expanded this world, added on to it, really like deep dove into these characters' psyches, and truly looked into what would happen if a prince was a beast for a while. How would that affect him mentally? How would that affect the princess? What's she fighting for? How would the kingdom react? There's all these external fears and fights of other kingdoms and other places in this universe, but it's also about the interpersonal connections between the prince and his guard and the princess who ends up coming to save him, and the witch that cursed him. But our Princess Harper, she fights tooth and nail the whole way. She is very angry, and like, I respect that. She also has cerebral palsy, which is a disability that does come into the series, and not only when it's convenient, which I do like, but the fact that from the beginning she's just not having it, and she calls out the prince on his bullshit all the time, is just, it's so great. It's so refreshing to read. It adds a twist on something that we kind of already know. I will say it's definitely not without flaws, but I still really, really enjoy this series. And lastly, let's talk about a trope that I find actually happens more in TV than it does in books, but I think this book does it so well that we're gonna talk about it in books, and that is the infamous makeover scene. You got your Mia Thermopolises, you got your Lizzie McGuires, you get your, what other like mid-2000s makeover scene movies? I don't know, I don't watch movies. I also realized this is another retelling that is done right, and that is Geekerella by Ashley Foston. In this case, the prince is a TV star who is doing a reboot of this kind of Star Trek-esque sci-fi series, and our main character is a huge fan of the series, but not of him. The ball is this kind of fan expo Comic-Con event, and through some misunderstandings and accidental phone calls, she and the prince start talking without realizing who the other person is, and they suddenly fall in love, and then there's like all this geeky stuff about like cosplay. And our makeover in this scenario is making a costume for Comic-Con, which is so fun because like I love cosplay. So it's her dressing up to enter into this cosplay competition. I really appreciate that in this book it wasn't that you're ugly and we made you over to be beautiful and you know now the love interest falls in love with you because you plucked her eyebrows. It's more of a learning to love yourself and like becoming who you truly are and like expressing something that you love. I just think that's beautiful. It's also mid-afternoon on a very nice day outside and there's a lot of people who are walking by my window right now. And I'm assuming that noise is gonna happen very fast, so we're gonna wrap this up. So there you have it. There's a bunch of traditional YA tropes done right. Please leave your recommendations down below. Please, small child, if you could not yell for like 5 more minutes, that would be great. It's very easy for people to kind of enter the YA writing sphere because you have tropes that are already kind of ready for you, so you can just kind of mishmash them together until you find something that you like, or you find a trope that you really like that you can add your own spin to. I really appreciate that nowadays authors are kind of on that train of making it their own or doing a fresh spin on it, because we've all read the mid-2000s beginner YA novels where people are just running around with shirtless love interests, falling in love willy-nilly, surprise being the chosen one, and then oh my god, they were soulmates, you know? Like, so cheers to spins well done and tropes subverted. Oh god, that's warm now. Oh, bleh. Oh, I don't like that. You know where to click to like the video, you know where to click to subscribe. I hope you guys are all having a nice day wherever you are, and I will see you all next week. Bye!